Greetings and welcome to this Huntington Learning Center webinar, Personalized Learning Styles. It's all about unlocking your child's potential. I'm Michael Hackmer, I'll be your moderator for today's event, and on behalf of Huntington Learning Center, I want to say thank you so much for making time to join us today. We know there's a lot going on with everybody's schedule, so we really appreciate you making time to join us for this presentation. Before I introduce our speaker, I do want to talk a little bit about Huntington Learning Center. As some of you may know, Huntington is a proven K-12 tutoring and test prep organization, been around for close to 50 years now. And there are really three things about Huntington that I think differentiate this company from other tutoring and test prep organizations or just going out and getting a tutor. And those three things are this. First of all, we use highly trained and certified tutors. It's really important for all of us at Huntington that the people who interface with your child have the experience and the training needed to be able to work on the different academic challenges that your child is facing. The second is accreditation. So Huntington is accredited by Middle States Association of Colleges and Schools. And the reason why that's important is as your child goes along their academic journey, if they're doing any kind of certificate or degree-based learning in the future, chances are pretty high that that institution is going to be accredited by Middle State. So it's important for us to keep that consistency in academic standards. And lastly, but certainly not least, in fact, I think this is probably the most important value and differentiator that Huntington offers is that focuses on individualized academic programs, right? And so what does that mean? That means we get your child in, we do a diagnostic. We really want to understand strengths and weaknesses because people come in, they say, well, I have study skills challenges, or I have trouble taking tests, or I need help with math. But at the end of the day, right, everybody knows different things, they have different strengths and weaknesses. So we really want to make sure that we identify those to tailor an individualized, personalized program for your child. And the results really do, I think, speak for themselves, right? On average, you're looking at an average grade level increase, about 2 points in reading and math after about 3 months. And then if your child is doing tutoring or test prep, I should say, for college entrance exams like the SAT or the ACT, on the SAT, it's 229 points on average as far as the increase. And on the ACT, it's 5.4 points. So it's pretty significant results. And then, of course, if you're doing any kind of, if you're interested in any kind of scholarship opportunities and improving grades and academics to achieve scholarships, we've seen our students get up to about $71,000 in scholarship opportunities, and that's pretty significant as well. So our speaker today is Marielle Carroll, and she is the Senior Training Manager here at Huntington's award-winning training department. But what I love about Marielle is that she's not just a leading trainer, but she was also once a Huntington student. So she has come full circle in her Huntington journey. And she has worked with thousands of team members to make sure that they're prepped and ready to go, as well as with thousands of students to help them achieve better academic success, as well as confidence in their learning journey. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Marielle. Marielle?
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. I'm very happy to be here today. So before we jump into our content, let's take a look at our agenda. By starting our conversation here, we'll start discussing learning styles and why they matter. Then we'll dive into the three main learning styles, where we'll explore examples of each learning style, as well as ways that you can help support your students based on their individual type of learning style. We'll also discover what works for each of these styles. And then we'll wrap up with a Q&A. Like Michael said, please put your questions into the chat box. We'll track them throughout the course of the call, and we will answer them at the end. So at Huntington, we often hear things like, my child isn't good at math, or some students are just natural learners. But did you know that every child learns in their own unique way, and that understanding the learning style of your child can actually transform their confidence and their academic success? So let's start first by busting a few myths. Learning styles are fixed. False. Learning styles actually evolve as students grow. The next myth is that a child excels in only one style. And this is also false because most students will use a combination of different styles. And the last, learning styles guarantee success. Also false. But it does signify and improve their learning efficiency. At Huntington, we have a personalized plan for every student that takes into account their own individual learning style. So why does this matter? Well, studies show that students who understand their learning preferences are 35% more confident and perform better in school. Parental involvement in learning even increases the likelihood of academic success twofold. So let's explore these three main learning styles: visual, auditory, and tactile. I'll share examples along the way as we meet today, and I encourage you to think about which one sounds more like your child or your children. A study by Fleming and Baum found that 39% of students identify as visual learners, 34% identify as kinesthetic learners, and 27% as auditory learners. This highlights the diversity in learning preferences. We even have some children who may exhibit a blend of different styles, but they may have more of a significant strength in one over the other. Did you know that some students even learn best by seeing information? These are our visual learners. Let's explore how they learn and how you can support them. Visual learners actually prefer diagrams, they prefer charts, they prefer illustrations. They benefit from material like videos, infographics, and slides. Anything that can help them see the concept clearly. They often take detailed notes and tend to remember what they see rather than what they hear. So how do you identify a visual learner? You want to look for students who gravitate to charts and pictures. Gravitate to really working with those students who prefer written instructions over verbal ones, like students who excel at visualizing concepts in their mind. And these are often students who take detailed notes. They tend to remember, like I said, what they see rather than what they hear. Visual learners absorb information best when they see it. So here are some simple ways that you can support them. Whether you're working with your students at home or at school, using things like diagrams, charts, mind maps even, are helpful to break down complex ideas. For these students, you want to provide written instructions with visual aids and use color coding or bold text to highlight key points. Encourage students to visualize processes or outcomes to improve their understanding. When we look at this in action, some examples in math, these are students who really benefit from seeing data trends using graphs or even drawing shapes. In science, these are students who benefit from using a flow chart to explain things like a water cycle. And at home, these are students who would benefit from a visual chore chart with pictures that represent tasks. By using these strategies, you can make learning more engaging and effective for your visual learners. Now, auditory learners absorb information best through listening and through verbal interaction. They thrive in discussions, lectures, and spoken instructions, often repeating information aloud to reinforce their understanding. These are learners who benefit from group conversations, from audiobooks, as well as Q&A sessions. Now, to identify these auditory learners, you want to look for students who actively participate in discussions, students who ask clarifying questions and recall details from verbal explanations. Think about those students who are always asking, but why? But why? We want to encourage spoken reviews, recorded notes, and interactive conversations with these students to help them process and retain information more effectively. To help these auditory learners succeed, you have to incorporate spoken activities into lessons. Encourage things like discussions, debates, and questions to reinforce understanding. Using things like audiobooks, podcasts, or even verbal instructions will help engage them, and it will give those students an opportunity to repeat back what they hear and summarize key points aloud. For these students, music and rhythm can also aid in memorization. When we think about things like language arts, reading a poem aloud or discussing its meaning, this enhances the comprehension for your auditory learners. In history, a storytelling brings events to life, while at home, verbal cues or rhymes make remembering tasks like a grocery list easier. By using these strategies, you can create a more effective learning experience for your auditory learners. Next, we have the tactile learners. These are the kinesthetic or the tactile learners. And these are learners who learn through doing or touching. These tactile learners thrive through hands-on experience, learning best by doing rather than just listening or watching. They excel in activities like experiments, building models, and crafting, benefit from physical engagement such as role-playing or using manipulatives. These learners often explore concepts through trial and error. Now, identifying kinesthetic or tactile learners, you want to look for students who prefer those more hands-on projects, students who struggle with sitting for long periods of time or gravitate towards interactive learning methods. Providing movement-based activities and hands-on tools can help these students and these learners stay engaged and retain more information effectively. Engaging tactile learners by incorporating hands-on activities will encourage their movement and their interaction. So using things like experiments, crafts, and manipulatives like blocks or models to make abstract concepts, it makes learning more tangible. These are students who need to role play. These are students who need to act things out, act out scenarios so they can reinforce their learning. Breaking tasks into smaller active steps also helps these learners maintain focus and participation. So for example, here in science, students can create a volcano to understand chemical reactions. In art, these are students who can use clay to represent abstract ideas to enhance their creativity. And at home, doing things like cooking, measuring ingredients, this can help make math more practical and engaging. These strategies help tactile learners stay actively involved in the learning process. Now, take a moment to think. Which of these styles best describes your child? And if you're not sure yet, don't worry. Next, we'll talk about how to discover their learning style. As a parent, as an educator, you need to show interest in the child's work. Doing things like asking about their school day or even participating in school activities like teacher meetings, performances, and sports events. All of these things allow for you to see how your learner learns best. And PTA research shows this. Students with highly involved parents are twice as likely to earn higher grades and test scores. Now, personal growth is key to building confidence in students' ability to learn. It encourages self-awareness, allowing them to adapt to different situations and navigate challenges more effectively. When students develop these lifelong skills, they're better equipped to overcome obstacles, both in their academic journey and beyond. In fact, research from the American Psychological Association shows that students who understand their learning style are 35% more likely to feel confident in their abilities. They also report higher academic achievement, providing just how important this awareness can be to student success. Huntington uses personalized learning programs based on learning styles, which we check for in our academic evaluation. By identifying whether a student is visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner, we can tailor instruction to match their natural strengths. This customized approach not only helps students learn more effectively, but it also builds the confidence and motivation that they need to succeed. When parents participate in their child's learning journey, they build stronger bonds based on trust and support, because this reinforces their investment into their child's academic success. This involvement also improves communication, allowing for more meaningful conversations and tailored support that meets the child's specific needs. Additionally, parental engagement fosters the student to feel empowered. It helps parents recognize their child's strengths, and it helps take a collaborative approach to overcoming their child's challenges. Research from the National Education Association shows that students with involved parents achieve higher grades. They perform better on tests, they attend school more regularly, and are more likely to graduate. This highlights the lasting impact of parental support. So if you're wondering how to pinpoint your child's learning style, here are some practical ways to observe and support their strengths. First, observe how they react to different tasks. Do they gravitate towards reading? Do they talk through their ideas? Or do they use their hands to figure things out? Try different methods to see which one clicks for them. And ask your children questions like, do you remember when you see it? Do you remember better when you hear it? Or do you remember better when you try it yourself? Once you have an idea of your child's learning style, you can help them excel by aligning their schoolwork and study habits with what works best for them. Here's a quick, practical way to support each of the learning styles. For visual learners, using things like flashcards and videos to reinforce concepts. Have students highlight key notes in color-coded sections. Using things like a highlighter allows for students to see and have things pop out when they're looking at text. For auditory learners, use audiobooks or podcasts to supplement reading. Encourage them to explain concepts out loud or to study with a partner. Giving those auditory learners the opportunity to hear and say things back will allow for them to have better engagement and better takeaways. And for tactile learners, create hands-on opportunities like science experiments or real-world math applications. Encourage movement-based learning, like bouncing a ball while reciting facts. By incorporating small adjustments, learning can become more enjoyable and even more productive for your child. Being a parent is both challenging and deeply rewarding. Every child does deserve learning experience that's engaging and enjoyable. When a child excels in school, learning feels exciting, but when they struggle, it can become stressful. So understanding how your child is doing in school is essential to providing the right support and ensuring that this educational journey is a positive one. I think we have one more poll now, one more survey.
Yes, Mary Ellen, we have it running right now. And so let's take about another 10 to 15 seconds. There's only 3 questions. And we're just curious to know if you're interested in exploring tutoring options for your child or children. So yes, you're very interested. You might be interested, but you'd like some more information. And maybe not at this time. Maybe you're more interested in something during the summer or at another time in the future. So let's take another 10 seconds. And then we'll close out the poll. All right, last chance to vote. Great. And we'll close out the poll now. I'll turn things back over to you, Meryl. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. So at Huntington, our foundational programs are our Learning Center and exam prep programs that we went over really in the beginning of the call. But I want to circle back here to talk first about our Learning Center program. Our Learning Center program is an academic skill-based program that is customized to meet students' academic needs. We work with students in every grade, grades kindergarten through 12th, working with them, tutoring in phonics, reading, writing, spelling, math, science, study skills, subject-specific, as well as the ADHD program. Our test prep program prepares students for state and standardized exams. And this includes the SAT, the ACT, PSAT, even your state tests, things like the advanced placement or the AP tests, and high school entrance exams. At Huntington, we start first with a full academic assessment, and that happens through what we call our academic evaluation. This evaluation helps our teachers identify your child's academic strengths and pinpoints the exact gaps that they're experiencing. With this information, we create a personalized program tailored to your child's needs. This academic evaluation allows parents to stop guessing and get the answers that they need to take action and help their child achieve their full academic potential. It's a good idea to find out where your child is performing. Recently, the nation's 4th and 8th graders once again posted underwhelming performance on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, with the 2024 results showing little to no progress towards regaining pre-pandemic levels in math and reading. Understanding your child's academic standing can be the first step to ensuring they stay on track for success. Our Huntington Advantage program is perfect for families with children in a variety of grades. For elementary students, we build and reinforce the skills needed to succeed in reading, writing, phonics, math, and study skills. For middle school students, we'll get your children back on track to improve their grades and even prepare for high school. We'll give children the opportunity to face more homework and higher expectations. And those who are already in middle school will help them with their knowledge reinforcement and getting prepared for the year to come with more advanced learning. For high school students, we have customized programs in study skills, writing, math, and science. And with any student, we tailor the learning to the student's precise needs. We also have numerous test prep programs for the different types of tests that students might take, things like the SAT, ACT, or even high school entrance tests. For that test prep, students come to Huntington to improve their test scores. And this allows them to have more open doors to their college choices. Here's how we do this. We start by doing a comprehensive evaluation or a full practice test. We then pinpoint the student's strengths and weaknesses so we can design a program that's tailored around the student's abilities and goals. We then develop a personalized exam prep plan based on the results of the practice test. The student will then be set up with a certified tutor to begin their prep. We offer flexible scheduling for all programs, which are available in one-to-one format, online, in-center, or via a hybrid approach that involves a mix of both in-person and online. Students who complete Huntington's SAT and ACT programs see an average increase of 229 points on the SAT and 5.4 points on the ACT. We are proud of our proven results and offer many advantages like flexible scheduling, certified experienced teachers, and a variety of prep choices. Preparation starts early though. Keep in mind when it comes to the SAT and ACT, being placed in the wrong math class, even as early as 5th grade, can impact the student's ability to take algebra in 7th or 8th grade, which in turn affects the math courses that they take in high school. Many students use grades and standardized test scores to track students in different math levels, potentially limiting future opportunities in advanced coursework. It's so important for parents to stay informed and advocate for proper placement to keep their child on track for higher level math. Huntington has experience and proven results in prepping students for any test, especially the digital SAT. So call us today to set up the evaluation and get your program started as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you, Marielle. So let's dive into our Q&A. And of course, if you do have any questions about some of the programs that Marielle has outlined, you can call us at 1-800-CAN-LEARN or visit the website at huntingtonhomes.com. So the first question I have that came in, and this question came in early, and I know you touched on it a little bit later in your presentation, but how can I determine my child's learning style? Is that something Huntington can help identify? What would be your answer to that?
Yeah, so when it comes to identifying your child's learning style, at Huntington, like I mentioned, we start first with that academic evaluation. And the purpose of that evaluation is to do just that. It helps us identify where your child's strengths and opportunities are. That academic evaluation helps us to learn how best to individualize the instruction once the student comes to us for instruction. When working with a teacher, they're set up with a personalized program. So their learning style is built into that. And one of the things that I often think is probably my favorite part of what we do at Huntington as well, is the fact that throughout the course of students' programs, we're constantly meeting with you, sharing with you how the student is performing, where they're doing well, where they're struggling, and what we are doing to adjust the approach. And all of this is part of the program at Huntington that will help us to share what we've identified as your child's learning style and how we are using that learning style to teach them how best to learn. Because coming to us will only really yield positive results when they're seeing it in school. So we need to help them identify their learning style, share that with you so that way they can use those skills in the classroom.
Excellent. Next question that came in. My son is a very visual learner. What can I say to his teacher to help him learn better in class?
So this is a great question because I think part of what we were discussing even at the beginning of the call is how to identify what type of learner your child is. And if you've sat through this call and you're thinking, yes, my child is a visual learner, just as the example, we want to take an opportunity to make recommendations to the teacher. If you've identified this, having a conversation with the teacher that your child is someone who is a visual learner, share it and be very direct with it. Your child's teacher may know what to do with it. However, give some examples that you've learned today. So visual learners are learners who prefer things like diagrams, charts, and illustrations. If you can share with your child's teacher that you've identified that your child learns better in one way over another, I'm sure that they would take your advice to help to personalize the approach. Maybe in class, the teacher is not giving a lot of options to things like visual learners. So having conversations with them that they benefit with things like videos, infographics, or even slides. The teachers may be putting together presentations and maybe not sharing those slides with the students, but that might be something that would help your child. So as I always say on these calls and working with people at Huntington, you have to be an advocate for your child. If you've identified something in a better way for them to learn, share it with the teacher and make sure that the teacher knows also what you're doing at home to help your child and to help support your child. That way you can work together to make sure that they are able to succeed.
Excellent. We got one more question, and then I'm going to ask this, and then Mariel, I'm going to ask you for a couple of key takeaways, because I know there's a lot of information that was covered. So this question, it has to do with students with ADHD, and they're sort of wondering about Huntington's program for ADHD, and I was curious too how that can sometimes translate into learning styles. I don't know if you have the background on that, or if that's something they should look at the call Huntington for, but that was the next question.
Absolutely. I would definitely recommend calling Huntington because you'll be able to have a one-on-one conversation initially with someone from our center to really talk about your students' specific needs. But I can speak to this at a high level. When we are working with students who do have ADHD, as I said, we have an ADHD program. And ultimately, what we're looking at with those students is teaching them strategies to help focus, teaching them strategies to help take away information as best as they can. Very similarly to what we're talking about today with learning styles. When working with students within our ADHD program, we are doing a very similar approach, really making sure that we can check off, go through a checklist, for lack of a better word, and see how does this child learn the best. We'll work through some tactics, some strategies, and some techniques. But just like I mentioned a few moments ago, we'll talk about those with you in conferences throughout the course of the students program. That way we can share with you, we tried this strategy, didn't work that great. However, we've now tried this strategy and they are excelling. So the same way that we would identify learning styles of our students, for students who do have ADHD, we would work on learning strategies along with those learning styles.
Excellent. So now because there's a lot of information. We did get a couple of other questions that are a little more technical. And in that case, what we do is we typically pull those questions back and we'll get a more detailed answer, pull something more thoughtful together for you and reply back. But before we wrap things up, Marielle, what are a couple of key takeaways as far as learning styles and things and for the parents? Because I know there's a lot of information that you covered. What would be a couple of good key takeaways?
Absolutely. When it comes to takeaways, I think it's important to keep in mind two different things. The first is that every child learns different. So I myself have two children of my own. They are young. Only one is a school-age child right now, but as we were preparing for today's webinar, I was even going through and trying to identify which way my school-age child learns best based on what we were sharing today. First step is identifying it and keeping in mind whether you have one child or multiple children, everyone learns differently. What works for one may not work for all. However, you've learned some good strategies and some good techniques on how to identify these types of learners. Your visual learner is someone who gravitates towards visuals, someone who wants to actually sit down and read a book and is able to take away information from that book. Your auditory learner, as an example, is someone who might need to listen to that book, someone who benefits more from audiobooks or podcasts. Your tactile learner is someone who needs hands-on. This may be the learner who benefits more from holding a physical book in their hand, reading it out loud, and then having a conversation about it. So identifying how your child learns will help you find different ways to support them. And the second piece of this puzzle is to get involved. One of the things that I am a very big advocate on is you have to be involved in your child's education to be able to identify if they're on track or if they're struggling. And as a parent, trust your gut. If something seems off, that's where you have a resource like Huntington Learning Center to do a little bit of digging, come to us and see that academic evaluation so we can identify exactly where the strengths and opportunities are. But the more involved you are, the better you're going to be, the better you're going to have a hands-on approach to your child's education. And that level of involvement doesn't need to be volunteering for every activity. It can be as simple as just checking in every night and saying, how was school today? What was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part of your day? How can we make tomorrow better? That level of involvement, having that conversation, helps to see really where your child is performing, where they're struggling, and how you can help support them.
Great. Marielle Carroll, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We know that we got a few extra questions that came in, and I wrote people offline just to let you know that we are collecting all those questions, and we'll get a chance to respond back to you. Some of them are a bit technical, and we want to make sure that we give really detailed and thoughtful personal responses. So bear with us. We'll get a response back to you. This really concludes today's event. On behalf of Marielle Carroll and Huntington Learning Center, I want to say thank you so much for making time to join us today. Be on the lookout for the on-demand recording of this event. We'll make that available in the next couple of days. And again, if you do have questions about any of the programs or want to speak to one of our academic advisors, I recommend you call us 1-800-CAN-LEARN or visit the website huntingtonhelps.com. And in addition to speaking with someone or learning more about our programs, there's a lot of really valuable educational resources in the resources tab. If you do have students who have or children who have ADHD, we have a whole ADHD blog filled with resources. So please do check that out. There's a lot of great academic information that can help you in addition to working with Huntington directly. That concludes today's presentation. Say thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event.